Hey everybody, this is graphic designer Roberto Blake, and in today's video I'm going to talk about how you become a freelance graphic designer. If you're just tuning into the channel for the first time, I usually do new graphic design videos every Monday, so make sure you're staying tuned and subscribe so you can get all of those. So what we're going to talk about today is the steps you need to take to become a freelance graphic designer. We're going to talk about what it actually takes to work as a freelancer and be successful at it. We're going to talk about the equipment and tools you need and the habits you need to develop to be a freelance graphic designer and how it differs from working for a company or working for an agency. So to get started, freelance graphic designers don't just work for one company or one client in most cases. They work for as many clients as they can take on. They usually acquire these clients themselves or through an affiliate network of some time or through representation, either through a headhunter, a talent scout, a recruiter, or some other type of scenario. Primarily, freelance graphic designers don't just get to do graphic design work because they're running their own business, whether it's full-time or as a side business. They have to actually go out and get their clients. I do a whole video on where you can find those in my Finding Graphic Design Jobs video. So if you want to go to specific websites aside from the ones in the description below, check out that video and it'll give you some more advice on how to find clients as a freelancer. But that is a very important thing, is to be a successful freelancer, since you don't have the consistency of somebody who works for a company or for an agency as a 9-to-5 job. You have to actually spend a lot of your time generating your own clients, your own leads in order to stay in business. This is why you have to have the right mentality if you're going to be a freelance graphic designer. Most freelance graphic designers have a part-time job or a full-time job, and freelancing is a side business, or it's something that brings them extra income or makes up half of their revenue. Most freelancers cannot use that to generate 80 to 90% of their income. My income majority, overwhelming majority, comes from my graphic design work, but I work as a graphic designer doing my own studio. I transitioned from just freelancing, and I'll explain that in a whole different video, but there's a big difference in terms of the business model and the way you go about it. But ultimately, the majority of my income still comes from freelance graphic design. It comes from other freelance ventures, whether that's photography and video, obviously passive income through my YouTube channel, and a few other products that I have out there. So that's part of the difference, is if you're going to be a freelancer and you want to be successful at it and make that 90% of your income or all of your income, then you're going to have to constantly be generating new clients, and you have to figure out how you're going to price to make that work. If you're only charging $200 per project, regardless of what type of project that is, then if you wanted to make a living off of that, you'd have to be getting 15 to 20 clients a month. But if you charge higher rates for your things, then maybe you don't need as many clients or as much consistent business in order to survive as a freelancer. For example, if you're doing $500 plus projects, then maybe you only need 5 or 6 clients a month. If you're doing $1,000, $2,000 projects, maybe you only need 2 or 3. It just depends. So you really need to think about what you're going to charge as a designer when you decide that you're going to be a freelancer, because it will affect how much time you're putting in and how many clients you need to be able to find in order to generate that income. So obviously, to get clients, you can do a lot of different things. You can either network locally, starting with family and friends, get referrals and do that, which is how most people do it, or you can use websites to find freelance gigs that people are posting, whether they be individuals or companies. You can also leverage social media. But one of the most important things to you being a freelancer is having a strong portfolio of work, having your own website set up so that you can generate leads, so you can point people to that website to view your work, have a portfolio that you can show in person, whether that's on your mobile device, your tablet, your laptop, whatever, or a print portfolio. And I have several videos that can help you with that. I have a whole video on how you can go about getting a freelance website developed. If you don't happen to be a web designer, it's still not a problem. You can use all kinds of different solutions. You can use Squarespace. You can even use Behance.net and showcase your work there and just get a domain and a .com and point it to that, so that you're doing your own personal branding as far as having your own .com. So there's just a lot of different ways you can approach it, and I cover that in my web design portfolio video. So make sure you're checking that out if that's something that you feel you're weak in. The thing that most freelancers neglect is that there is a salesmanship component to being a freelancer, and that means closing, that means getting clients, that means convincing people of your value and to honor your prices and to value your work and to choose you over someone else. So you need to know how to properly market and promote yourself as a designer in order to attract new business. This might mean that you need to focus on a specific area of design and figure out what you do better than most people or what you're most comfortable doing. And oftentimes for a lot of people, that will be logo design, or it will be print design, or it'll be web, or maybe it'll be photo manipulation and key artwork. It's very difficult for people to do everything. I'm not a jack of all trades graphic designer, even though I do a lot of everything. It's mostly focused around advertising and brand development. So that's my specialty. It just happens to cover a broad range of skills and abilities, and that's kind of where I go with it and why I can offer so much. And it's because I have over a decade in experience in just about all of these different things because, well, I don't have much of a life. Most of the socializing, most of the things that I do when I go out still some way tie back to what I'm doing, usually either whether it's video or photography or talking about art. A lot of the events I go to are photography and art based. That's the community of people that I hang out with. And that actually works out very well for me because it means that I'm constantly in a position to market myself, promote my work because it's such a part of my personality and what I do. So, if that's not necessarily who you are, then it might be more challenging for you to find a way to work your everyday life into being a way to generate new clients and new leads. So you might have to dedicate some specific time to it if you're not always on. So going into some of the business aspects of freelancing, if you're going to be a freelance designer, then you need to set up your rate card. You don't necessarily have to give that on your website or give that to clients, but you need to know how much you're charging for things, and you need to figure that out. And again, I have a whole video on what you can charge as a graphic designer, so you might want to check that out. You also need to figure out whether you want to use general agreements or contracts. You can use a book called The Visual Artist Guide to Legal Advice. I have that link in the description below. There are all kinds of other resources you can use, LegalZoom, etc. Just make sure that you're taking the proper steps to protect yourself. And maybe you even want to consult a lawyer. A lot of people will do that for free, or you can go through your local small business association and you can get some help and advice on how to properly set up your business, set up your contracts, set up your general agreements, your usage rights, making sure that you protect yourself and that you can keep things in your portfolio after you're done with a client, etc. So just make sure you're taking those proper steps and you're doing the proper business practices for where you live. The other thing is you need to make sure that you're charging enough to be able to invest back into your business and cover your expenses. A lot of graphic designers take for granted that there is a cost associated with the way that they do business. You need to be able to get stock photos, new fonts, things like that every single year. You're going to have to get those things in order to conduct your business. So you need to figure out how much a month on average you're spending on those, how much a project you're spending on those. You need to work that into your billing model and your fees, and also how much money you're holding and saving back for expenses. You need to have a fund so that you can replace your computer if you absolutely need to. If you're using Adobe Creative Cloud, you need to make sure that you have the money for your subscription set aside every single month out of what you're doing. A lot of people are against taking out lines of credit, but I think that can be very helpful if you're just getting started as a graphic designer to offset some of your expenses, as long as you have a plan for make sure you pay it down, things like that don't get in over your head. But this is an investment. Doing a business is an investment. There's a cost associated with it. So don't hesitate. If not having the money to do something up front means you would miss an opportunity, then you need to overcome that fear and just go ahead and invest in your ability to be successful. So that's just my personal advice. I will probably do another video specifically about that and how to invest in yourself as a creative professional. So that'll come later, because I think it's important to understand that, doing even this YouTube channel, I had to spend over $1,000 in the equipment that I used to produce all these videos, and that paid itself back, return on investment, multiple times over. I can't tell you by how much, more than 10 times over in the time since I got it. So it was a good idea, and you know what? I used my Amazon credit card to do a lot of it, and I've never regretted the decision. So just kind of keep that in mind. So some of the tools I think you absolutely need as a freelance graphic designer is you need some kind of software to do your time tracking and your productivity. You need some kind of task manager software. I highly recommend using something like Evernote or Microsoft OneNote to keep yourself organized. Being organized is essential to being a freelancer. I can't stress that enough. You really need to be able to keep track of your clients, your to-do list, your due dates, your invoicing. You need to make sure you have a good invoicing system. You might want to use software for that unless you can do the manual accounting yourself. You might even want to consider taking on an accountant if you think you can afford that or you're doing a high enough level of business. So, these are just some things that you really should keep in mind. In terms of general tools of the trade, I've already done a graphic design video on tools. Obviously, I recommend using a Wacom tablet. You're probably going to need a laptop and a desktop computer. You are going to need a good printer. You don't have to get a Mac. A lot of graphic designers think that you have to get a Mac in order to do graphic design. If you're using the Adobe programs or even the Corel suite, there's absolutely no quantifiable difference between using a Mac and a PC. I constantly talk about this. It's a matter of preference. It's a matter of what you're comfortable with and what you can afford. There are some things on the hardware side, but you know what? You'll be just fine with a good Asus laptop. Dell is doing some great things again. I know there were some issues in the past, but they're back, and Michael Dell got involved and they're putting out quality products again. So if you want an all-in-one computer that's comparable to an iMac, maybe you get a Dell. For laptops, again, I highly recommend Asus. HP and Epson do great printers. If you're doing more photography, maybe you want a Canon printer to go along with your Canon video cameras or your DSLR photography. I use Nikon equipment myself personally, but I've used Canon in the past before. I think they're both great. So, just use your own judgment there and maybe go into the camera system that most of your friends have so that you can borrow lenses and batteries and equipment and things like that. But a camera would probably be very good for you to invest in as a freelance graphic designer or web designer, because when you do print work or when you do branding stuff, or even when you want to promote or advertise yourself, having good quality photos to be able to tell your story and market yourself can be extremely useful and can engage clients. If you're going to advertise on Facebook and Craigslist, or even Twitter or any other social media, photos do a better job of selling you than anything else. So you can have all the best written copy in the world that you want, but a photo is usually going to sell it a lot easier. So make sure you're doing that. So some final thoughts on being a freelance graphic designer. One of the things is you have to absolutely manage your time effectively, because you aren't in a 9-to-5 environment. You don't have a supervisor, you don't have coworkers, you aren't answerable to anyone but your clients, but that means that you have to manage your time effectively. You have to stay on top of your deadlines. You have to stay in constant communication with your clients. When a project is active, I probably touch base with a client every day or every other day, sometimes multiple times a day if that's what's needed, whether that be phone or email. When you want to do work with clients and they want changes or revisions, make sure they absolutely put everything in email so that you have it in writing, you have documentation, you can always go back to them with what you guys spoke about. If you're working with a group of clients, if it's a team or a company, try using something like freeconferencecall.com so that everybody can get on the conference call. There's also a playback feature so that you can dial in and you can hear everything that was said, get it exactly written down, and it's documented, it's recording, so you know exactly what was said and what was stated, so there's no confusion, it's clear, and you can go back to them later if there's a problem. One of the most important things in being a freelancer, or probably the most important thing in being a graphic designer, is having good, strong communication and building strong relationships with your clients. They're going to be what makes or breaks you. They're going to refer you to other people. They're going to give you testimonials you can use on your website or in LinkedIn. So you need to make sure you're strengthening the relationship with them. They might do repeat business with you. Again, they might bring other people to you. So that's absolutely important. It's not enough just to do good work, but it's important to be recognized in doing that good work and for other people to advocate and promote the good work that you do. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a lot more about what it means and what it takes to be a freelance graphic designer. If I didn't answer all of your questions, be sure to leave that in the comment section below. I'll either answer you directly or I'll do a follow-up video to this with more information and tips on being a freelancer. Maybe I'll even make this a regular series. Anyway, like this video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe, share it with friends, check out the other great content on the channel. As always, you guys, thanks for watching, and don't forget, create something awesome today.